Good Tuesday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for October the 3rd. Today we are reading together in 2 Kings chapter 18, which we are going to shift gears from looking at Israel, which is now gone. We read yesterday about how they were taken away into captivity and were given we were given some explanation for as to why that was the case. And now we're going to shift our focus down south to Judah and look at King Hezekiah. Remember, he is the son of Ahaz, and if we remember, Ahaz was awful. He was a terrible king. Really nothing redeemable about the man. And yet his son, is he going to be the same type of king? Or are we going to get one of those rare instances where the son differs from the father, whether a bad father gives way to a good son or a good father gives way to a bad son? We're going to check that out here in 2 Kings chapter 18. Let me get the text up on the screen for us. We'll read along together here today. 2 Kings chapter 18, reading about Judah's king Hezekiah. Judah's king Hezekiah. In the third year, 2 Kings 18, verse number 1, in the third year of Israel's king Hoshea, son of Elah, Hezekiah, son of Ahaz, became king of Judah. He was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Abi, daughter of Zechariah. He did what was right in Yahweh's sight, just as his ancestor David had done. He removed the high places, shattered the sacred pillars, and cut down the Asherah poles. He broke into pieces the bronze snake that Moses made, for until then the Israelites were burning incense to it. It was called Nehushtan. Hezekiah relied on Yahweh, God of Israel. Not one of the kings of Judah was like him, either before him or after him. He remained faithful to Yahweh and did not turn from following him, but kept the commands Yahweh had commanded Moses. Yahweh was with him, and wherever he went, he prospered. He rebelled against the king of Assyria and did not serve him. He defeated the Philistines as far as Gaza and its borders, from watchtower to fortified city. Verse number 9 of 2 Kings chapter 18, in the fourth year of King Hezekiah, which was the 7th year of Israel's king Hoshea, son of Elah, Assyria's king Shalmaneser marched against Samaria. Assyria's king Shalmaneser marched against Samaria and besieged it. The Assyrians captured it at the end of 3 years. In the 6th year of Hezekiah, which was the 9th year of Israel's king Hoshea, Samaria was captured. The king of Assyria deported the Israelites to Assyria and put them in Hala, along the Habor, Gozan's river, and in the cities of the Medes, because they did not listen to Yahweh their God, but violated his covenants. All he had commanded Moses, the servant of Yahweh, they did not listen, and they did not obey. In the 14th year of King Hezekiah, Assyria's king Sennacherib attacked all the fortified cities of Judah, and it captured them. So King Hezekiah of Judah sent word to the king of Assyria at Lachish, I have done wrong, withdraw from me. Whatever you demand from me, I will pay. The king of Assyria demanded 11 tons of silver and 1 ton of gold from King Hezekiah of Judah. So Hezekiah gave him all the silver found in Yahweh's temple and in the treasuries of Yahweh's palace. At that time, Hezekiah stripped the gold from the doors of Yahweh's sanctuary and from the doorposts he had overlaid, and gave it to the king of Assyria. Then the king of Assyria sent the field marshal, the chief of staff, and his royal spokesman, along with a massive army, from Lachish to King Hezekiah at Jerusalem. They came to Jerusalem, and they took their position by the aqueduct of the upper pool, by the road to the launderer's field. They called for the king, but Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, who was in charge of the palace, Shebna, the court secretary, and Joah, son of Asaph, the court historian, came out to them. Then the royal spokesman said to them, this is, if you're reading other translations, reading in Isaiah elsewhere, this person's name is Rabshakeh, which is a title. It's not a name, but he is the Rabshakeh. He said to them, tell Hezekiah, this is what the great king, the king of Assyria, says. What are you relying on? You think mere words our strategy and strength for war? Who are you now relying on? Who are you now relying on so that you have rebelled against me? Now look, you are relying on Egypt, that splintering reed of a staff that will pierce the hand of anyone who grabs it and leans on it. This is what this is what Pharaoh, king of Egypt, is to all who rely on him. Suppose you say to me, well, we rely on Yahweh, our God. Isn't he the one whose high places and altars Hezekiah has removed? Saying to Judah and to Jerusalem, you must worship at this altar in Jerusalem? So now, make a bargain with my master, the king of Assyria. I'll give you 2,000 horses if you're able to supply riders for them. How then can you drive back a single officer among the least of my master's servants? How can you rely on Egypt for chariots and horsemen? Now I have attacked this place to destroy it. Excuse me. Now, have I attacked this place to destroy it without Yahweh's approval? Yahweh said to me, attack this land and destroy it. Then Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, Shebna, and Joah said to the royal spokesman, please speak to your servants in Aramaic, since we understand it. Don't speak with us in Hebrew with an earshot of the people on the wall. But the royal spokesman said to them, has my master sent me to speak these words only to your servant and to you? Hasn't he also sent me to the men who sit on the wall, destined with you to eat their own excrement and drink their own urine? The royal spokesman stood and called out loudly in Hebrew, hear the word of the great king, the king of Assyria. This is what the king says. Don't let Hezekiah deceive you. He can't rescue you from my power. Don't let Hezekiah persuade you to rely on Yahweh by saying, certainly Yahweh will rescue us. This city will not be handed over to the king of Assyria. Don't listen to Hezekiah, for this is what the king of Assyria says. Make peace with me and surrender to me. Then each of you may eat from his own vine and his own fig tree, and each may drink water from his own cistern, until I come and take you away to a land like your own land, a land of grain and new wine, a land of bread and vineyards, a land of olive trees and honey, so that you may live and not die. But don't listen to Hezekiah when he misleads you, saying, Yahweh will rescue us. Has any of the gods of the nations ever rescued his land from the power of the king of Assyria? Where are the gods of Hamath and Arpad? Where are the gods of Sepharvaim, Hena, and Eva? Have they rescued Samaria from my power? Who among all the gods of the lands has rescued his land from my power? So will Yahweh rescue Jerusalem from my power? But the people kept silence. They did not answer him at all, for the king's command was, don't answer him. Then Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, who was in charge of the palace, Shebna, the court secretary, and Joah, son of Asaph, the court historian, came to Hezekiah with their clothes torn and reported to him the words of the royal spokesman. That is 2 Kings chapter 18. Israel is going to be gone as we make our way into this text a little bit. Again, we're shifting the focus now from Israel to Judah, where we have King Hezekiah here, son of a terrible king, a terrible man in Ahaz. But he, unlike all the kings of Israel and unlike some of the kings of Judah, the text tells us that he did what was right in Yahweh's sight. Notice, just as his ancestor David had done. What does that mean? That means he sought to restore proper worship to Judah. He removed the high place. Remember, that was the bugaboo with all the rest of even the good kings, who we might just be good kings in Judah. Their point where they fell short is they did not remove the high places, but Hezekiah did. He removed the high places. He shattered the sacred pillars. He cut down the Asherah poles. He even took the bronze serpents from 800 years previously, while they were wandering through the wilderness. Or so many hundreds of years for sure earlier, maybe 800 might be a bit of exaggeration, but hundreds of years previously, while they had been wandering around in the wilderness, we remember that they were complaining and grumbling against Yahweh. Yahweh sent serpents that bit them, and then he told Moses that he could make the serpent and put it upon a pole, and whoever looked upon it would be healed. Well, it seems that they took that serpent, that bronze serpent, and turned it into an idol of some sort. They became superstitious toward it, so Hezekiah even destroys it. one of the great statements of this text is verse number 5, where he says, where the historian of Kings says that Hezekiah relied on Yahweh, God of Israel. He relied upon him. Unlike anybody before him, he relied upon him. He was faithful to him. He didn't turn from following him. He kept the commandments that Yahweh had commanded Moses. And because of that faithfulness, Yahweh was with him and he had great success. He was able to repel the Assyrians. He was able to defeat the Philistines. He was able to achieve so much, again, as faithfulness from Yahweh for his faithfulness toward Yahweh. And it's really that simple. If we would have seen any of the kings, the rest of the kings behave in this manner, have faithfulness towards Yahweh, they would have had success too. But whenever they didn't do that, that's whenever we have issues that arise. Verses 9 through 12 are a rehashing of what we've already seen in chapter 17, specifically how Shalmaneser came and besieged Samaria, chapter 17, verse 6. And then the very end, chapter 17, verses 7 through 17, is summarized very succinctly in simply saying that they did not listen, they did not obey, and because of that, because of violating the covenant, God did not bless them. He was not with them whenever enemies came about. Well, as you would expect, as any nation that was a conquering nation continued to gain more ground, they would just continue to gather more speed and continue to make their march in whatever direction they are making it. For Assyria and King Sennacherib, that meant that the southern portion of Canaan, which was occupied by Judah, it meant that they were up first or up next in the process of their conquering of the land. It talks about them going into having already conquered Israel. Now they go into Judah and they capture the fortified cities of Judah. They sent word, and then once Hezekiah sees this, he sends word to Sennacherib and basically surrenders himself to him, saying, if you just tell us what you want, we'll pay it, just withdraw from me. And so Hezekiah ends up giving him a ton of gold and silver that can be found within the city of Jerusalem, specifically from the temple and the palace. And this is strange for us that Hezekiah is spoken so fondly of within this text, and yet we see him giving in to Sennacherib here. Why is that the case? Well, maybe the fact that Sennacherib was able to take the fortified cities, maybe that led Hezekiah to think that this was Yahweh's will. And if it's Yahweh's will, it's going to be accomplished. And maybe he was just thinking whatever he could do to mitigate the damage by giving up this silver and gold to Sennacherib. That's just speculation. That's all I can think of. Maybe the reasoning that he had within his mind. And yet you would think, just as, if you have a dog or an animal that shows up at the house, and if you feed it a little bit, what's it going to do? Well, it's going to stick around and want some more. So that's what we have here, unfortunately, because he surrendered in this way. Well, what's Sennacherib going to do? Well, he's going to send even more, which is why he ends up sending the chief of staff, the field marshal, the royal spokesman, Rabshakeh. He sends that in the entire massive army to go really turn up the heat on Jerusalem and let them know that they mean business. They call for Hezekiah, but instead Eliakim and Hilkiah and Shebna, Eliakim and Shebna and Joah, they go out and they meet Rabshakeh and they listen to his little Trump speech, or little stump speech, I guess I should say, where he stands up and basically just threatens them and tries to intimidate them by this great speech. Who are you relying on? Who is giving you this idea that you can withstand us? You can't stop us. Who are you relying on? Are you relying upon Egypt? Well, look at Judah. How did that turn out for them? Not very well, right? Yeah, you ought to think about that. Who are you relying on? Are you relying upon Yahweh? Do you think he's the one that's going to save you? Didn't Hezekiah just tear down his high places and his altars? We know that's not the case. We know that Hezekiah was purifying the worship of Judah, but Rabshakeh, he doesn't know that. He just sees any sort of altar within the land and thinks that it's dedicated to Yahweh, when in fact it's not. And he says, don't you think Yahweh is the one who sent me to this place to begin with? Don't you think that's the case? He's not going to stop me. Have I attacked this place to destroy it without Yahweh's approval? Yahweh said to me, attack this land and destroy it. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure that that's true. I'm not positive about that. Maybe that's the case. Not positive. As he's speaking all this, he's just bloviating. Those who have gone out to him, Eliakim, Shebna, and Joah, they say, hey, can you speak to us in Aramaic? We understand that. Speak to us in that, so everybody up on the wall doesn't hear what you're saying and become even more scared than they are, which is just silly because, of course, this is only going to ratchet up what Rabshakeh is saying because he wants to intimidate everybody. That's the whole point of this whole exercise, is to intimidate everyone into giving up. So he stands up and then begins to speak even more strongly towards the people. Don't listen to Hezekiah, he says. Hezekiah says you're going to be delivered. Hezekiah says Yahweh's going to rescue you. Hezekiah says that you should resist us. No, don't do that. Don't resist us. Make peace with us. That's what the king of Assyria says. Make peace with us instead. And then once you surrender to us, then you can eat from your own vine, your own fig tree, drink from your own water. That is until we remove you, because remember, that's what they do. They will move you out of your land, send you to a distant land. They'll bring people from distant land, move them into their land. All of this is just to disconnect them from their homeland so that these people are more easily controlled and manipulated by feeling as if they're broken and being just completely disheartened throughout this entire process. Not a big deal. I'll take care of you is what he says. But don't listen to Hezekiah, because he's going to mislead you. He's going to tell you that's not going to happen. He's going to tell you that Yahweh's going to deliver you. And listen, have any of the gods that we've gone up against so far, have any of them withstood us? Have any of the gods delivered the people from their lands? No, they've all been defeated. And you know what? That exact same thing is going to happen to you. If you think Yahweh is going to deliver you, Yahweh will not rescue Jerusalem from my power. Remember, this is Rabshakeh speaking on behalf of Sennacherib of Assyria. It is as if Sennacherib is speaking, and Sennacherib is saying, Yahweh can't stop me. If I want to take you, I will take you. And at this moment, as one man I was listening to stated, they should have known right here at this moment, we've got this. Israel should have known that. Judah should have thought, Jerusalem should have thought, all right, guys, let's plan the parade. This man, he's gotten too big for his britches. He thinks that Yahweh can't do this. He's getting too arrogant. He's getting too prideful. And we know what happens whenever people get too arrogant and too prideful before Yahweh. Yahweh humbles them very strongly. So go ahead and plan the parade. Go ahead and plan the celebrations. God's got this. God will not let this type of arrogance and let this type of prideful bloviating, he won't allow this to stand. So all the people in the face of all this, they keep quiet. They don't say anything, because that's why Hezekiah told him. Hezekiah said, don't respond. Don't fuel the fire. Let them say what they want to say, and we'll go about carrying out the plan that we've established for how we're going to react to them. But for Eliakim, for Shebna, for Joah, they're hearing this. They're hearing this firsthand. They're distraught by it. They go into Hezekiah. Their clothes are torn, and they report to him everything that the royal spokesman has said. So what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? How is Hezekiah going to respond to this straight up intimidating threat from the spokesman of Sennacherib? Is he going to give in again? Is he going to stand his ground? Is he going to seek counsel? Will he pursue to know Yahweh's will? Well, to answer those questions, we'll have to come back again tomorrow as we read together from chapter 19 tomorrow. Hope you can tune in then. If you have any questions or comments about this text, please feel free to leave that in the comment section below. And I appreciate you taking some time to read along with me today on this Tuesday. Hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday, and we'll be back at it again tomorrow, reading together, as I mentioned, from 2 Kings chapter 19. Hope to see you then. Take care. God bless.